Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Imagine this scene with me. A luxurious party inside an upscale restaurant in the heart of New Delhi. Hundreds of guests are dressed in their finest clothes. The music is loud, glasses clink in celebration, and a beautiful 34-year-old woman stands behind the bar, serving drinks to customers, smiling and laughing with those around her. And then, suddenly, in a single moment, without any warning, the sound of a gunshot shatters the atmosphere. The woman collapses to the ground and blood begins to spread across the floor. 100 witnesses, more than 300 people were present at the scene at the moment of the incident. But when the case reached the courtroom, no one saw anything. No one knew anything. Not a single person could say who pulled the trigger. India's most famous newspaper published a headline that stayed in people's minds for years. No one killed Jessica. A few hours later, as the first light of dawn began to rise over New Delhi, the victim's family sat outside the hospital, unable to comprehend what had just happened. At the same time, many of those who had been at the party left quickly, as if nothing had happened at all. And the strangest part of all, the person responsible for everything that happened was standing calmly at the crime scene when the police arrived, without fear or guilt, as if he was certain that no one could touch him. Today, we will tell the story from beginning to end, a crime that shook all of India and exposed how money and power can bury the truth and silence everyone. The story begins in New Delhi, in an area called Mehrali, inside an old yet luxurious building known as Qutub Colonnade, which offered a stunning view of the historic landmark, the Qutub Minar. Inside this place was a very upscale restaurant called Tamarind Court, owned by a well-known businesswoman in elite circles named Beena Ramani. She was a controversial figure, with wide connections among politicians, celebrities, and businessmen. She was married to a Canadian-origin businessman named George Mailhot. Her restaurant was unlike any other. Every Thursday, it hosted a private party attended by the sons and daughters of politicians, celebrities, and top business figures. However, there was one problem. The restaurant did not have an official license to serve alcohol. To get around the law, they labeled the event as a private party instead of a public one, which gave them a loophole to serve alcohol without a license. Beena Ramani herself was quite an unusual personality. She came from a wealthy family, had divorced her first husband long ago, and worked for Air India in New York. Later, she built her own success story, opening fashion boutiques, working in garment exports, entering the luxury hospitality world, and launching several restaurants, including Tamarind Court. In Delhi's elite circles, she was often compared to royalty because of her social influence, and she was known for her strong connections with politicians, celebrities, and powerful businessmen. On Thursday, April 29, 1999, Tamarind Court was hosting its usual weekly party, but this time it was bigger than usual. Beena Ramani was hosting a farewell for her husband, who was traveling to Canada that week. The guest list was impressive. Famous fashion designers like Rohit Bal and Tarun Tahiliani, Hollywood actor Steven Seagal, Natasha Nanda, a relative of the well-known Indian actor Abhishek Bachchan, and many other prominent figures from Delhi's high society. In short, anyone who mattered in elite circles was there that night. Amid this crowd stood a beautiful 34-year-old model behind the bar, Jessica Lal. An events manager named Shahana Mukherjee had picked her up from home at 10 p.m. and brought her to the party to work as a bartender, just as she had done before. Jessica had originally gotten the job through her friendship with Beena Ramani's daughter, Malini Ramani, who was also working as a bartender that same night. Alongside them was an aspiring actor and model named Shayan Munshi. At the same time, there was a 24-year-old young man named Manu Sharma, the son of a powerful politician and former Indian government minister Vinod Sharma from the state of Haryana and a member of the Indian National Congress Party. Manu was known for his love of cars, weapons, and a fast lifestyle. He often boasted about his father's influence. People who knew him described him as someone who couldn't handle alcohol well, was quick-tempered, and used to getting whatever he wanted the moment he asked for it. He was also a regular at Tamarind Court. That night, he was supposed to travel with his mother by train to Chandigarh, but he chose to stay back and party with his friends instead. Before heading to the party, he had been drinking with 3 other men at the house of his friend Amarinder Singh Gill, the general manager of Coca-Cola's Delhi branch. With them were a colleague named Alok Khanna and another young man named Vikas Yadav, the son of another powerful politician, D.P. Yadav. The 4 of them had drinks before arriving at the party around 11:15 p.m. The party was going on normally. People were drinking and dancing, until it was officially time for the bar to close at 12:30 a.m. After that, the venue remained open for guests to stay, but no more drinks were being served. The problem was that the alcohol had already run out even before closing time, so anyone who came to order a drink was simply told, "The bar is closed." As time passed, it was around 2 a.m., and the place had become a bit quieter, though there were still people around. At that moment, Manu Sharma was heavily intoxicated. He went up to the bar and asked Jessica for a drink. As she had been telling everyone else, she calmly replied, "The bar is closed." But Manu didn't accept the answer like the others had. He kept pressuring her and even offered to pay her 1,000 rupees just for a single drink. Jessica responded with a simple sentence, one that would ultimately trigger everything that followed. "I won't give you even a sip, even if you offer me 1,000 rupees. That response bruised Manu's ego in front of his friends and the people around him, especially since he was used to getting whatever he wanted through money and his father's influence. The idea that someone would refuse him outright was something he couldn't tolerate. In that moment, Manu pulled out a .22 caliber pistol from his waistband. At first, people thought he was joking or trying to scare others. Someone even said, "That's a toy gun." But it was real. Manu fired one shot into the air, then asked Jessica for a drink again. Just like before, she refused. He asked a third time, pointing the gun directly at her, but again, she said no. At that point, he pulled the trigger. The bullet struck Jessica in the side of her head. She collapsed instantly, and blood began to spread around her. Strangely, the music didn't stop immediately. People farther away didn't realize what had happened right away. They thought it was just a loud popping sound. But within seconds, the truth became clear. People rushed toward Jessica, and one of the first to reach her was fashion designer Rohit Bal. An ambulance and the police were called. About 20 minutes later, Jessica was taken in a guest's car to Ashlok Hospital in Safdarjung Enclave, and then transferred to Apollo Hospital. There, doctors declared her dead the following day. But Manu Sharma and his 3 friends didn't act like ordinary people who might wait for the police or turn themselves in. Instead, they fled the scene immediately amid the chaos following the shooting. They returned to Amarinder Singh Gill's house and began figuring out how to get Manu out of trouble. Manu disposed of the gun in an unknown location in Delhi. As a result, the police were never able to recover the weapon used to kill Jessica, nor determine its exact whereabouts to this day. At the hospital, before Jessica's death was officially announced, her younger sister, Sabrina Lal, was still at her office working when she received a call on her work phone from a colleague telling her that Jessica was in the hospital. At that time, Sabrina had just started a small travel company with her friend, and she didn't take the news seriously at first. She thought maybe her sister had fallen or something minor had happened until she received the full details. She rushed to the hospital and found the Al-Makan crowded with police, journalists, and people shocked by the news. Amid the chaos that followed the gunshot, Beena Rahmani, the owner of the restaurant, was among the first to run toward the scene. She found the actor Shayan Munshi standing in shock near where Jessica was and immediately asked him, "Why did he shoot Jessica?" referring to Manu Sharma. This question was very important because it indicated that Beena herself had witnessed what happened and knew the identity of the shooter from the very first moment. Years later, when Beena testified in court, this question was presented as strong evidence that she was a genuine eyewitness, not someone who had only heard about the incident afterward. The news of Jessica's death on April 30th, 1999, sent shockwaves through India's elite society, and the search for the killer began immediately. Strangely, Manu Sharma completely disappeared, along with everyone who had been with him. Even his prominent family went into hiding, and no one could reach them despite their significant political influence. The police began their investigation, and at that point, Beena Rahmani's husband assisted them by providing Manu's car number, a Tata Safari. Through this, the police were able to trace the vehicle, which they found abandoned in Noida, in the state of Uttar Pradesh. However, Manu himself was still on the run. 4 days after the crime, the police arrested Alok Khanna and Amarinder Singh Gill. Through their interrogation, they discovered Manu's whereabouts, and about a week after the crime, they were able to find him hiding in the state of Himachal Pradesh. What was strange was that Manu remained very calm at the time of his arrest. He continued to claim that he was innocent and had done nothing wrong, even stating that he did not care about anyone's opinion of him. At the same time, many people began to question how Manu's family, with all their influence, had not helped the police locate him, and whether they had instead been helping him escape. A few days later, Vikas Yadav was arrested along with 11 other individuals on charges of assisting Manu in fleeing. Additionally, Beena Rahmani, her husband, and her daughter Malini Rahmani were arrested on charges of running an unlicensed bar and tampering with the crime scene. This was because there were testimonies stating that someone from the venue's staff had been instructed to quickly clean Jessica's blood before the police arrived. On August 3, 1999, about 3 months after the crime, the police officially filed the charge sheet in court. Manu Sharma was charged with murder as well as destruction of evidence, while the other accused were charged with concealing evidence, conspiracy, and aiding a fugitive. Manu hired one of India's most famous and powerful lawyers, Ram Jethmalani, who was known for defending high-profile and controversial cases. The trial began with 32 witnesses who were supposed to have seen Manu fire the gun with their own eyes. Initially, all of them had given the same statements to the police, confirming that Manu was the one who fired the shot. But when it came time to testify in court, almost every one of them changed their story in a similar way, claiming they had left the party before the incident or were elsewhere and had seen nothing. Even the experts who were supposed to confirm that the bullets were fired from the same weapon also changed their statements. Sabrina tried every possible way to convince the witnesses to tell the truth. She approached them one by one, speaking to them personally and explaining that their silence would allow the killer to escape punishment. One of them, an electrician, told her bluntly, "If I testify, they will kill my family. Manu's father has already reached me." Another witness agreed to testify, but only on the condition that Sabrina pay him money. She knew he wasn't reliable and was trying to take advantage, but she still paid him to secure any level of cooperation. Years later, Sabrina said in an interview that she had been certain that, among all the people who attended the party, at least one person would have the courage to tell the truth. But sadly, reality proved to be the exact opposite. Even Shayan Munshi, who had been the closest person to Jessica at the time of the incident, began to distance himself. In court, he did something very unusual. He claimed that he did not understand Hindi at all and requested that all questions be asked in English, arguing that his initial police statements were incorrect because he had not understood what was being said to him. The trial lasted a full 7 years. The case remained unresolved, and witnesses kept retracting their statements one after another. Then, on February 21, 2006, the trial court delivered its verdict: acquittal of 9 out of the 12 accused, including Manu Sharma himself, the man all the evidence had pointed to as the shooter. The court stated that the police had failed to prove the case, failed to recover the weapon used, and failed to establish that the 2 bullets were fired from the same gun. The next day, the Times of India published a headline that shook the entire nation: "Nobody killed Jessica." This verdict sparked massive public and media outrage. People took to the streets, and large-scale media campaigns and candlelight vigils were held in front of Parliament. Major news channels like NDTV launched a powerful campaign titled "Justice for Jessica," urging people to send SMS messages in support of the case. Within just a few days, hundreds of thousands of messages were received. People organized candlelight protests outside government buildings and courts in Delhi, and even Bollywood stars and prominent public figures appeared on television demanding that the case be reopened. This wave of public pressure was rare in India at the time, as cases like this were usually forgotten quickly. But Jessica's case became a symbol for everyone who was tired of the children of powerful politicians escaping justice. Amid all this public outrage, a well-known investigative journalism program in India called Tehelka conducted an undercover operation targeting actor Shayan Munshi. An undercover journalist posed as a representative of a British production company looking for an actor who could speak both Arabic and Hindi. He secretly recorded a video of Shayan proudly claiming that he was fluent in Hindi and Urdu, even stating that he had learned them in school. This directly exposed his courtroom claim that he didn't understand Hindi as a blatant lie. The undercover journalist even asked him about the case. Shayan responded with a shocking statement, saying that everyone knew Manu Sharma was the one who committed the crime, but no one was acting because these were powerful people. The video was broadcast across Indian television and turned into a national scandal. People saw for themselves the same actor who had spoken only English in court, claiming he couldn't understand Hindi, speaking Hindi fluently in another setting. This completely destroyed the credibility of his testimony. The scandal was a major embarrassment for both the police and the judiciary. As a result, the police themselves filed for a review of the case in the Delhi High Court. On March 22, 2006, the court issued fresh arrest warrants for the 9 accused who had previously been acquitted. After fast-track appeal hearings that lasted several months, a new verdict was delivered on December 18, 2006. The Delhi High Court formally convicted Manu Sharma of murder and sentenced him to life imprisonment. 2 of his associates, Vikas Yadav and Amarinder Singh Gill, were sentenced to 4 years in prison for destruction of evidence. The prosecution's request for the death penalty for Manu was rejected, as the court ruled that although the crime was intentional, it was not premeditated to the extent that would justify capital punishment, nor did they consider him a continuing threat to society. Following this verdict, Manu Sharma's father, who was serving as a minister in the Haryana state government, was forced to resign due to intense public and media pressure. The case continued to evolve over the years. In February 2011, legal action was initiated against the 32 witnesses who had turned hostile, charging them with perjury. Among them were Shayan Munshi and a ballistic expert named P.S. Manocha. In April 2010, India's Supreme Court upheld Manu Sharma's conviction, making it final and rejecting any further appeals. During one of his temporary releases from prison, furlough, granted for good behavior, Manu Sharma got married on April 22, 2015, to a Mumbai-based model named Preeti Sharma, whom he had known for years before the crime. The wedding was held as a simple ceremony in Chandigarh. Years later, in June 2020, more than 20 years after the crime, Manu was released from prison due to good conduct, based on a recommendation from a sentence review board. After his release, in a media interview, Manu apologized to Jessica's family, saying that the hardest part of his time in prison was watching his family suffer because of him. But the real surprise came from Sabrina Lal, who had spent over 2 decades fighting for justice for her sister. After his apology, she stated that she had forgiven Manu and refused any financial compensation that might have been offered to her. Despite all of that, fate was still harsh on the Lal family. A short time after Manu's release, Jessica and Sabrina's mother passed away, and just a few months later, their father also died. As for Sabrina herself, the woman who dedicated her entire life to her sister's case, she passed away on August 15, 2021, at the age of 53 after a long illness. Before her death, she had dreamed of establishing a charitable foundation in Jessica's name to help women who had gone through difficult circumstances like those her family faced. She always said that she never forgot her sister, not just on special occasions, but every single day of her life. Jessica's photos remained in her home until her very last day. As for Manu Sharma, after being released from prison, he drastically changed his life and entered the business world. He went on to own one of the largest whiskey brands in India, and his company became worth hundreds of millions of rupees. His younger brother, Kartikeya Sharma, also became a well-known media figure and founded a major news network in India. As for Beena Ramani, her husband George Mailhot, and her daughter Malini Ramani, they were arrested in the early days of the case and had their passports confiscated for a period. However, they were later released, and none of them were formally convicted of destroying evidence, even though that charge could have carried a life sentence. Years later, Beena admitted that she had indeed been operating a bar without a license, after denying it for a long time. She said the law at the time was outdated, and that many people in the industry were bypassing it in similar ways. As for Shayan Munshi, the closest witness to the crime and almost the only one who actually saw it happen, he denied everything in court. His perjury case remained open for many years. In May 2013, the Delhi High Court ordered that he and the ballistic expert P.S. Manocha be put on trial. At the same time, 17 other witnesses were acquitted of the same charge. 10 witnesses had their cases closed earlier, and 3 of the original witnesses had passed away in the years following the incident. The story that began with a single gunshot at an upscale party, triggered by nothing more than a refused drink, ended as a case that shook an entire nation. A story that led a man to spend more than 20 years in prison, destroyed many lives, and turned the name Jessica Lawle into a symbol for delayed justice that eventually prevails. The case didn't stop at the courts. It was also turned into a famous film in 2011 titled No One Killed Jessica. Today, it is studied in Indian law schools as an example of the power of media, the voice of the people, and their ability to change the course of justice. But in truth, this story is not just about a murder. It is the story of a sister who refused to give up, who kept fighting for years for her sister's rights, even when everyone else was ready to forget. And the story of a crime that could have been buried in files, if not for people who chose not to stay silent. Jessica never came back, but her name lived on, in the memory of an entire nation. And with that, we come to the end of today's episode. If this is your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.